All right, so we're entering into this like ESPN um era of WWE from the Netflix. Unfortunately, like for you American viewers, that sucks, and I'm with you. Stephanie McManary promoted a damn VPN. Going over to that, like I apologize, but it's also a great way like to start touching grass too. At the same time, it's just really unfortunate that this is what it's gonna have to be. They are making more entertaining matches for WrestlePalooza. That's cool. AJ Lee's back. That's amazing. Um, but it's too much prices. I understand it's too much prices. Netflix. We still have Netflix internationally, but to celebrate this turnover to ESPN, we're gonna look at the Triple H pay-per-view matches. But we're talking about like the ones that he's been in control of. Let's look at this, see which one's the best one. I'm already knowing which one it is. I think you do too. I think we all have the same opinion, but we might like end up saying something different. Let's go into it. Money in the Bank 2023 versus Bash and Bell in 2024. That's men's ladder match. Yeah, I said matches. Yeah, men's ladder match versus Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes. Yo, you know what this did actually lead up to for the Money in the Bank? One of the greatest cash-ins I've ever witnessed, like on live TV. Damian Priest won this one. Yeah, bro. But in Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes, this match was obviously like cool too. If I had to choose between these two, like I know storyline wise and psychologically, the most entertaining and more like present match, like most important match here is probably Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes. However, I like in-ring matches. You know what I mean? Like when I say this, I mean like quick pace, focus more on spots. You know what I mean? Like just very fast paced, very like stunts happen all the time. Like one of my favorite matches is something that you haven't even thought about for a minute. Like this year is A Town Down Under versus Trick Williams and Obafemi on an NXT TV match. That's one of my favorites. NXT is also better than SmackDown and Raw. Let's talk about it. Um, so, like, considering everything I just said, I'm gonna have to go with Money in the Bank 2023. I might be tripping and I apologize, but that's my answer. The Usos versus the Brawling Brutes, or Randy Orton versus John Cena Backlash 2025. R-Truth involved himself in this. R-Truth is actually really good to me, like that lie detector, like the real moveset that R-Truth is supposed to have outside of the John Cena stuff. R-Truth is insane, bro. The Usos versus the Brawling Brutes, I don't really remember this at all, bro. Crown Jewel 2022, you're expecting me to you're expecting me to believe. You're expecting me to remember the Usos versus Brawling Brutes. Crown Jewel 2022. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, Clash of the Castle 2022. More memorable. The Judgment Day versus Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. Nah, like this started something here. That's like when Jey Uso came back to the press conference, started talking about Yeet. Now it's one letter, four letters, one word, Yeet. Now everybody's like, this is a main event, and now main event Jey Uso. But between the two for the match type, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, which Drew McIntyre shouldn't have won, and he didn't. I'm just saying, like, now we know what happened. Yeah, bro. WrestleMania 40. Yeah, bro. Women's ladder match versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline. Women's ladder match, but this is the one where everybody kept falling. This is the one where everybody kept falling in it. But this Solo and no, this wouldn't have even been Solo and Roman Reigns. So Seth versus AJ Styles, the first time we had that World Heavyweight Championship back, versus Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Nice, bro. AJ Styles for AJ Styles. Crowd went crazy here. Championship butterfly effect because my ghost Seth Rollins is here. But obviously Cody Rhodes. But this cursor is very perverted, bro. Dominic Mysterio versus Penta versus Braun. This is the Fatal 4-Way into IC Championship match at WrestleMania 41 against Cody Rhodes versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2025. What a great bounce back compared to what WrestleMania 41 was for these two. Come on now. Austin Theory, yeah, I know about the star power in the ring. Call him the type of guy, but yeah, I know. Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed at Backlash 2023. Do I remember this? Gunther versus Drew McIntyre, SummerSlam 2023. SummerSlam 2023. I've not actually. That's such a blast in the past. Like. SummerSlam, all the SummerSlam 2023 matches, apart from when Brock Lesnar's pants kept on ripping off, feels like when you pull out a song from the 2000s that you haven't even thought about for like 25 years. This is exactly what it feels like. Just so distant, but yes, we might have seen it. Might have heard it and be like, oh yeah, I remember this time. What's likely to be the best match out of these two? Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Judgment Day Payback 2023. This was great. This like hockey, when it came out with the hockey sticks and stuff like this, with the Terry Funk, all of this, cool, great. So which is the best match? I'm going to have to go with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day. CM Punk versus John Cena or Becky Lynch versus Larry. No. Like, great match, but damn, that zip time moment ruined everything. I'm going to have to go for CM Punk versus John Cena. AJ Styles versus Finn Balor, Survivor Series 2022. Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria, Money in the Bank 2025. It should be this, shouldn't it? But I don't remember this. So is it worth saying this? It's not worth saying this? It's this. Damian Priest versus Gunther, SummerSlam 2024. Or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Naomi. Come on now. Evolution 2025. But the problem was when WWE was trying to counteract AEW with All In. WWE messed up with Saturday Night's main event. Nobody cared about Saturday Night's main event. But Evolution and Great American Bash, phenomenal PLEs. I'll say Evolution obviously outdoes everything else apart from. Not Evolution might have been the best PLE that happened that weekend, and then it was All In. My favorite match from All In, because it's not going to pop out here, is the Swerve and Will Ospreay versus the Young Bucks. Best match out of these two are 2024 Women's Elimination Chamber, LA Knight versus Carmella Hayes versus Andrade. This would have probably went a lot more like crazy. And only really due to like the type of spot you would have got from Carmella versus Andrade. Let me go ahead and put the 2024 Women's Elimination Chamber, the one that happened in Perth, the Tiffany debut kind of thing. when she did like the moonsault from the top of the chamber. Cool. We running with it. I was on holiday watching this 2 5s. The Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Or Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Come on now. Bayley versus Io Sky. Or Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. This would have been an I Quit match. Let me go for Bayley versus Io Sky at WrestleMania 40. WrestleMania 40 was one of the, definitely my personal favorite WrestleMania of all time. But top 3 at least for WrestleManias of like all time. Objectively. Edge versus Finn Balor. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day. Yeah, we're kind of lost. I should have just gone for the 128. Gonna have to go for this right now. Okay. Logan Paul versus Ricochet. That was a great match. Logan Paul versus Ricochet was good chemistry. These are phenomenal workers. These have like great in-ring talent. Women's Royal Rumble. Slow burner. Cool, but slow burner. Nia Jax is like the biggest problem that happened here when she dumped everybody out. Who should have really won this year's Royal Rumble, who would have made it a lot crazier. Because I hate this HDMI thing, bro. Like, stop blacking out at me. I'll fight you. I'll go to war with a cable, bro. CM Punk should have won the Men's Royal Rumble. I believe that. Honestly, like, my favorite that won was Jey Uso. You know what I mean? I was definitely hyped for that. I was rooting for Jey Uso when it was him and Cena. But if we had CM Punk over there, we should have had Roxanne Perez actually win instead of being the runner-up. That would have went insane, bro. But putting her in matches with like Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble, putting her in these matches is a great way to debut Roxanne to the main roster. Out of these 2 matches, Logan Paul versus Ricochet. That's the best match that probably happened that night. Roman Reigns and The Rock versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Great. Comes from WrestleMania 40. We're going to go with this match. Edge versus Finn Balor. Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. This was insane, bro. Edge versus Finn Balor. Like, you got the Demon Finn Balor and the Brood Edge. This was good. Yeah, bro. Unfortunately, in this match right here, Becky Lynch came with the flu because it was cold outside. Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss versus Damage Control, or Becky Lynch, Lita, and Trish Stratus versus Damage Control. Let me go ahead and go for Clash of the Class of 2022 WrestleMania 39. There's difference. There's order. Men's War Games Survivor Series 2022. I don't remember Sheamus being in one of these. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre. Unless this is Cody Rhodes and I've just been hearing things wrong. Versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40. Yeah, bro. Damian Priest cash in? Yeah, bro. Board at work? Yeah, glow. Men's ladder match versus Rhea Ripley or Liv Morgan, SummerSlam 2024. We'll go for the Rhea versus Liv match. That was great. Everything that happened in 2024 was insane, bro. Great PLEs, everything like entertainment-wise, amazing, bro. I feel like everything was just at a peak. 2026 is probably going to be insane. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens or Shane McMahon versus The Miz. Why the hell would that be? Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns or Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan? This is a hard one to say. Men's Elimination Chamber or Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. Let me go for. This is the one where she nearly dropped Io on the head. Like this move here, bro. Men's Elimination Chamber in 2023. I remember it. Best match out of these two. You have Montez Ford right here. You have Johnny Wrestling, Bronson Reed, Austin Theory, Seth Rollins. Yeah, bro. I just remember the botch from this match. And these are like two phenomenal workers too. So I'm going to have to go with the Elimination Chamber. Like the thing that I should remember is not the botch. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39. Women's Team Championship at 4-way. Yeah, everything that happened between the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes has been great, bro. LA Knight versus Logan Paul. CM Punk versus Gunther. These are not blasé, bro. These matches is not blasé. LA Knight and Logan Paul, like, that match was incredible. LA Knight is such a great personality. Of course, Logan Paul is a great, like, wrestler. In ring, spots and all this. CM Punk versus Gunther might have to win because if it wasn't for the cash-in, it would be a great match. It would have been a great match and is a great match without it. So then they would have been like probably having more memorable moments for Logan Paul instead of like CM Punk and Gunther. So what I'm saying is like the cash-in kind of elevates this match more than it saves it. It did not save it. It just elevated the match. The match did not need saving. That was a great match. CM Punk winning and walking out with the championship would have been fine, bro. Seth Rollins coming back, dropping the crutches. Phenomenal, bro. Amazing, bro. Gunther versus Sheamus or Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. Clash of the Castle 2022 WrestleMania 39. Difference in order, bro. Difference in order. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Come on now. This should have definitely been the thing that we left WrestleMania 41 with. Or a six-pack TLC SummerSlam 2025. Also something that was incredible this year. Bro, that's actually kind of hard to say now. Because, yeah, you do have Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Roman Reigns in one of the greatest matches you'll see at WrestleMania. Star power's there. Psychology's there. You know what I mean? Things like this in-ring was even there. Just the best match out of these two would have to be the Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus, yeah. In-ring with this is just, like, insane. But I feel like this would only be better if they would give the championships here to somebody unexpected, like an Andrade, Rey Fenix. Fraxium would have been phenomenal to give it to. But yeah, bro, obviously that's going to be the better match that we have. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez, Night of Champions 2025, or Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, SummerSlam 2025. This was great. Roxanne got involved. You know what I mean? These two did actually throw down. But I think the better match out of the two has to be Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, definitely. Austin Theory versus Seth Rollins versus Bobby Lashley. Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Naomi. Yes, bro. Yes. Women's ladder match versus Lara Valkyria versus Nia Jax. The one where they all kept on falling. With Selena there too. I know, bro, but this was a cool match for Lara Valkyria. Let's throw in the 2023 Money in the Bank. Women's ladder match 2024 or Cody Rhodes versus Gunther. This is the one that who would have won 2024? Tiffany Stratton, yeah. Outcome is she's now the WWE Women's Champion. Cody Rhodes. So yeah, just the impact was different, I guess. Gunther versus Randy Orton or Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. This probably would have went crazy. Gunther versus Randy Orton. Not that crazy, so probably what was more entertaining out of the two, I'll give it to this triple threat right here. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Cool match. Was a bit more of like a decline in how the night's momentum was going. But WrestleMania 40 was just that WrestleMania. Men's ladder match, though, this is the one where Jey Uso would have won. No, Drew McIntyre won and cashed it in, but then lost it. So we're going to go with this WrestleMania 40 match right here. Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch or Men's Royal Rumble 2025. Men's Royal Rumble. Bianca Belair versus Bayley or LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. This would have definitely went crazy, but so did this. U.S. Championship then went. If this would have went from LA Knight to Jacob Fatu to Solo Sikoa to Jimmy Uso, this match would have been elevated by that fact. But because it didn't, I'm going to have to go with this match right here because Sami Zayn is just like a bit of a throw-in. I'm glad that we're getting open challenges, but I want to see crazier like opponents. Now that we've had John Cena, I want to see crazy opponents come out, like NXT debuts, of course. I want it to be as good as the Cena Open Challenge back in 2015. The Usos versus the Street Profits or Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. Great match right there. Let me go for Rey Mysterio versus Dominic. Gunther versus Mustafa Ali versus Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. I don't remember this, but it looks cool. Like, you've got a technician, powerhouse kind of guy right here versus a high flyer. That's probably insane. Like, I want to watch this match again, but I'm going to go with this one over here. Bianca Belair versus Asuka or Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Jade Cargill versus Naomi or Randy Orton versus John Cena, yeah. WrestleMania 41. Evolution match was better. But for out of these two, I'm going to go for Randy Orton versus John Cena. Seth Rollins versus Omos or Gunther versus Sami Zayn. Let me go for Seth Rollins is in this match, though. That's already a cheat code for me, bro. Seth Rollins just appears on here, bro. That's like my LeBron James. Or Gunther versus Sami Zayn, I would have to go for Gunther versus Sami Zayn. I'm going to be self-aware. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins or Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest at Clash of the Castle. Seth Rollins is there, but no. Women's War Games is Survivor Series 22 or Rhea Ripley versus Zoe Stark. I would have to go for I'll have to go over here for War Games. Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Zoe Stark versus Shayna Baszler. Or Fatal 5, where I just say CM Punk versus John Cena. CM Punk versus John Cena. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos or Io Sky, Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos. I might be... No, we're not going in the loop. This is just different pay-per-views. Braun Strowman versus Omos or Men's War Games in 2023. Yeah, bro, you remember. Randy Orton and CM Punk 2023, you remember. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns or Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. I'll go ahead and go for SummerSlam 2022. Yeah. It's fine to say that. It's cool. You know what I mean? That was a great match. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed on Men's Elimination Chamber. They're doing my boy Seth wrong, but he's also in this match, so that's a W. That's where we should be. Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio, or Io Sky versus Bianca versus Rhea Ripley. Triple threat match, okay. That other match though, Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul, would have probably went crazy too. Bianca versus Charlotte versus Asuka, or the Women's Elimination Chamber match in 2025. Gonna have to go for this one. Great lineup right there. Women's Elimination Chamber from 2023, or the Judgment Day versus Newcastle Republic Elimination Chamber 2024. I'm gonna go ahead and put that Elimination Chamber match forward. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins, or back in the good times right here. Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle, back in the good times right here. Women's Royal Rumble 2023. Was this lime green Royal Rumble? When every woman would just come out in lime green. I'm gonna go for this one right here. Rey Mysterio and Edge versus the Judgment Day, or Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed. I'm gonna go for this. Had a bigger impact for Dominic Mysterio. Men's Tag Team Showcase. Yeah, bro. WrestleMania 39. Yeah, bro. Oh, this is great though. While it is worth your time to go watch this men's tag team match at WrestleMania 39, because everything was just so quick paced, everybody was going crazy. Braun Strowman going crazy, Angelo Dawkins going crazy, Ricochet going crazy. You name the person that was in here, that was probably going crazy. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre though, insane, like all-timer match. Blood on the face, big disgraces. With the damn toolbox to the corner of the head. I'm just so glad that they're not showing this, because it is live for me over at Twitch. If you want to go subscribe or like follow over there, whatever we do over there. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Men's Royal Rumble, or Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul at that same Royal Rumble. We are yet to see CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. This is something that we have to see. A full match, big PLE at one of the big four, but preferably WrestleMania for a championship. We need Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk. That's the match that's been told for like since 2023. Yes, CM Punk should have won this time so that he could face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Considering the fact of how WrestleMania 41 had ended, while I'm glad to see hip hop at WrestleMania 41, not the best ending. I'll give you that. So, like, between these two matches, let me go ahead and put Men's Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, or Women's Tag Team title. Tag Team title for Evolution 2025. Damn. Seth Rollins is just like insane, bro. Like, why are you checking the vest that you put his whole career in danger for? That's my goat. I'm gonna have to go for it. Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross, or Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes, Royal Rumble 2025. Bianca Belair versus Bayley, or Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. Let me go for Payback 2023 Steel Cage. So I do actually remember this match, but I do remember this. But this shot right here looks insane. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, or Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, Money in the Bank 2023. We're gonna go with one of my matches, my GOAT's matches. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, or Gunther versus Randy Orton. I swear I've chose something over this, but so in that case, more Seth Rollins in the mix. Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. Damn, he's already had a match with Logan Paul. I mean, with Cody Rhodes. I was like, good for Cody. Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre, WrestleMania 39 though. Women's Royal Rumble or Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley. This is still Angry Royal Rumble, I think. It was either 23 or 24. Or it was 22. There was a Angry Royal Rumble somewhere. Go look at it. Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria or Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. We need something to happen between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, but so in that case, because something is evolved or followed down from Lyra and Becky Lynch, that's the one that we're going to go for. Men's Royal Rumble 2023 or six-pack ladder match WrestleMania 40. R-Truth won a championship at WrestleMania 40, bro. Why would I go for Royal Rumble 2023? Because obviously it was the main event lead up to WrestleMania 39, of course, but R-Truth won a championship at WrestleMania at the best WrestleMania of all time. DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns or Rusev versus Sheamus Clash in Paris. Let's get with that one. That's crazy. I'm glad that turned out the way it did. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins. That's the one where he like nearly broke his coccyx though. That was such a bad landing. Men's ladder match or Naomi versus Io versus Rhea. We're gonna go for this triple threat match that happened at SummerSlam. Logan Paul versus The Miz or Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one. Yeah. Logan Paul versus The Miz. Yeah, it's gonna have to be Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. That seems like such a bad shout though. Because why would that match have been better than Logan Paul and The Miz? None of them would have won anyway, so that's just like a blasé pick, I guess. Asuka versus Bianca Belair or Men's War Games. We're gonna go for Men's War Games 2024. I believe so. Yeah. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Speed. Speed is in that prime battle right there. If you didn't know, you should know. Out these matches, this one was crazy. I'm glad that Logan Paul picked up the victory here. Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. Gunther versus The Miz. You know what? If Logan Paul, like, despite all the type of butterfly effect that would have happened, if Logan Paul was a professional wrestler, more than he was a content creator and like came up as a professional wrestler, you would not have no type of controversy around him, and he would have been known as one of the greatest to ever do it. That's just like in a different light, of course, different perspective, different alternate universe. That's of course going to be true. Like, bro is an insane wrestler in ring. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre or the Brawling Brutes and the Imperium. Oh, I remember the Imperium. Shout out to Rich Holland, but damn. Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul or Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable. This is actually a great match. This KSI was the not because that makes the match any better, but cool moment. You know what I mean? Moments do increase the match. Or Women's War Games versus CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. You know, this feud was definitely crazy. Has to be. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair or CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with my goat Sabu as special guest referee. Damage Control versus Alexa Bliss and Asuka or 2024 Elimination Chamber. We'll put this match forward. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. Or Or Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes. These two matches are insane, but this obviously was a lot better than this one over here. Gonna have to go for that. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins or this one. Bayley versus Io Sky or SummerSlam 2024. Bayley versus Io Sky. Edge versus Finn Balor or CM Punk versus John Cena. Men's Royal Rumble, LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul versus Ricochet. WrestleMania 39. I'm worried that we don't have WrestleMania 40 still in this bracket. I'm so hoping that I didn't actually choose anything over there. We're gonna have to see what happens at the end of this. Women's Elimination Chamber or Men's War Games. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre versus Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. WrestleMania 40 right here. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. I'll go. Gonna have to go for this one. Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul or Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Seth Rollins. Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre or the one where they fall. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre or Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Yep. Women's War Games. CM Punk versus Gunther. CM Punk versus Gunther, yeah. Women's ladder match or CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, of course. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. I'm definitely going off a match that I just remember more. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair or Roman Reigns and The Rock, but yeah. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, yeah. Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus or Women's Royal Rumble. Barry Outcome. Gunther versus Sami Zayn or Io Sky versus Bianca, yeah. Bianca or Cody Rhodes, yeah, bro, come on now. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor or Randy Orton versus John Cena. Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Alright, 2024 match. You know, their matches were different. Entertainment was different in 2024. Bro, the Mafia-thon that everybody's watching because Mafia-thon that everybody's watching other than the stream I'm doing now, so I have to do YouTube videos in it. After they do like 2024 Mafia-thon was better than 2025 already. Yeah, the difference, you know what I mean? Just like professional, like, I don't believe that's true. I actually don't believe that's true, and it's also off topic. I think 2025 has been crazy for Mafia-thon. Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Becky Lynch, Lita Travis, yeah. Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria, the triple threat. Edge versus Finn Balor. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio, Super ladder match. R-Truth won the championship at WrestleMania. Men's War Game or Rusev versus Sheamus. Men's Royal Rumble. Men's Elimination Chamber. Royal Rumble. Rey Mysterio and Edge versus the Judgment Day. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre 2024. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. or Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes? Very nice. I just like everything that was the lead up. If Roman Reigns hadn't have won in WrestleMania 39, WrestleMania 40 wouldn't have been as crazy as it is. Roman Reigns had to win at WrestleMania 39. Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. Bayley versus Io Sky. WrestleMania 40, both matches. Gonna have to be this match right here, all-time Women's Classic. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns and The Rock. Yep. Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. Triple threat WrestleMania 41. Men's Royal Rumble, CM Punk versus Gunther. CM Punk versus Gunther. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre or Men's War Games. Men's Royal Rumble or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. CM Punk versus John Cena. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. 6-part ladder match or the Women's War Games. You know, now R-Truth winning the championship has been debunked. Women's Royal Rumble or Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest or this one. You know what I mean? Come on now. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar or Rusev versus Sheamus. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. Triple threat for triple threat. Both happening this year. Both being so crazy. Everybody that was involved in all of these matches was so on point. Star Power versus in-ring. Psychology over here, psychology over there. Damn, that took my vision away then. Which also has to happen because of this match. Because I'm not really enjoying the vision right now. I'm only really enjoying Seth Rollins. I believe that Paul Heyman should have went over to Bron Breakker. So in all of this case, still has to be this. Edge versus Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, Randy Orton versus John Cena. I would have to go for WrestleMania 40. Come on now. We're going to take that all the way to the end, probably. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes versus... Yeah, bro. That's probably going to be our last two. It's just that two matches of different WrestleManias. Roman Reigns and The Rock. Come on now. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre or Rusev versus Sheamus. Bayley versus Io Sky or Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Classic versus great match. But this was such an entertaining match to watch. I'm sorry. High power, you know what I mean? Like power to these women right here, but Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes or CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. In this case, yeah. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, yeah. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns or Io Sky. Another triple threat, but didn't we just talk about this? No, we talked about a different one. Yeah, bro. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, CM Punk versus Gunther. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. That time, yeah. Roman Reigns versus, yeah. Okay, this is a little harder than I expected it to be. Pause. That's ILSG sex tape. Roman Reigns and The Rock versus Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins or CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. let me go for. Oh, damn it, bro. I'm gonna have to go for this one though. I think that's a better match. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre or Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Yep. Cody Rhodes WrestleMania 40 versus damn, James. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, of course, bro. Rhea Ripley, the Triple Threat of Evolution. Yeah, bro. Cody Rhodes versus WrestleMania. Yeah, bro. Come on now. All right. Cody Rhodes versus WrestleMania 40. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Or Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky with the Naomi cash-in. Final two, great inclusivity, great diversity. But the best match that did happen right here has to be the best moment at WrestleMania of all time was when Cody Rhodes finished the story. Let me know if you agree with that. That's like, comment, subscribe. That's column. That's how. That's.